Hi everyone, welcome to a drafting analysis for the 4 colors. I've done a really long drafting analysis for Del Pozo Grown on Stand color already on Instagram. So if you want to have a more intense one, have a look over there. It's quite chatty, but today I'm just gonna show you how the 4 colors look like and also how you might want to draft them. Let's have a look at the 4 colors. As I said on my Instagram TV, there is quite a long analysis on this color, including talk about construction and fabric. So if you really fancy making that as it is as a coat, have a look at that. But I think the technique works well on most styles. And I actually just finished the tutorial. You can see that's how it looks, so I can see that working just as well on a simple coat, jacket, or even a dress or top. And actually, if you made it in jersey, you could if you made a jersey top, you could make this double, so it becomes like a sort of facing, which is then stitched in here, but just a really nice detail. So I'm just gonna quickly, because on Instagram I talk more about constructions, I'm just quickly gonna talk about, because on Friday I'm gonna show you 2 different ways of creating it. And basically, to get this color, you can start with 2 bodice blocks. You can either start with a loose block already, and then we're just gonna pinch this out of the actual block. So if you ever had like a sort of boxy jacket, this is normally quite loose around that area. It's not fitted. So what you basically do is you pinch out a bit of volume to create that. That does cause a bit of issue with the edge of that collar, so I'm going to talk in a tutorial as well how we can adapt that to make it nice and flat, because this sits really nice and flat. And the other option is actually that we're going to move part of our bust dart into here and then create the dart out of it. We're only talking about 2 centimeters, so not a lot, and then you can use the rest of your bust dart shaping to basically create the oversized shape. And the rest of this jacket is coat is really nice. Have a look on the website, because it's basically got some really nice, it's got a dropped shoulder with a gusset, so you know how to construct that quite well. But then they sort of chop the arm off there, and then it becomes it has this sort of petal sleeved coat. But they've done something quite clever where they have, where there's a seam, they sort of highlighted it with double stitching, and then where it goes under where it would have been, it's sort of, it's stitched, it's got top stitched lines to correspond with it. So the whole it's quite a simple shape, but they've done it really well. And so this is like a petal sleeve. So this is quite a simple construction. I just add a little bit of a dart there for more volume, and it's just so snakes around the bodice in a 3D format. And if you really love that sleeve, you can look at it in future to do that. But yes, so the oval shape is quite easy and it's quite quick to do, and you can add this same dart shaping also to any shawl collar, so it's really versatile. And you can even make it completely straight, but I've even seen on shawl, I've done on shawl collars where it actually follows the front neckline a bit, and then it goes out like this, and that would actually be on this one. Can you see there? So on this one I'm going to just quickly draw the different shapes. So this one looks like this, and it hasn't got a fold line. This one looks like like this, and then of course the fold line is like this. But it basically just means that there you can actually create a lot more shaping by curving these two. So this is like your original neckline, and when you curve this, and then you even have some shaping coming from, actually it's more like that, so it's literally the bustard shaping. But to get a bustard there, you basically make it even bigger, and that way you can create more shaping. So if you ever done a shawl collar, it doesn't sit nicely, you got lots of pulling and it doesn't fit nicely around there, that's when you can actually push part of your bustard into up here and do that. So it's all the same method but different decals. And this one is actually the same, but they just, so it's again the bustard, but they literally just have it going straight down as a bustard. So that just adds a bit of shaping, but it's nothing to do with the collar, which I included it because it's nice to see the contrast. And the last one, we had these two lovely styles, which are really similar. And some of you had done it and said it's a really good style to do. And here we've even got two. So it's again, it's a shawl collar, so it's got a fold line. So it looks something like this. And then they actually done, I wonder illustration wise, but this is actually a dart. It's sort of quite over top. So it's something like that. And then again, of course, the fold line is like this. You can see we've got double dart here as well. So I'd like to actually see it made up. I have to look if I can see some made up pictures. And then it's also got a very weird stitching line there, which makes me, it might be even a dress. I should probably look at it properly rather than just illustrations. And this is definitely a coat. And again, you can see it's got very short bustard there. Then it's got a little seam there, which doesn't actually do any shaping. It's got a really nice pocket there, can you see? But again, this is again exactly the same, but this time rather than going it down, it's actually a really nice collar. So a collar looks something like this, and this time the dart is more forward. So ours is more down, this is more forward, and then this is a mixture. So lots of choices for you. Anyway, so that was your chosen collar. Let's talk about, I'm gonna talk about this in more detail because lots of you liked it, and the other one in less detail. And this is actually one of two you suggested. There was also a different one you really liked. The other two you also liked was this one, which is again the same. It's a short collar with a hood, but it's a really contemporary styled one. But this one is Claude Montana from the late 80s, 90s. So that's a lot more dramatic, and I think they've actually added some extra seams in there to create the volume. And again, this is again it's either Claude Montana or Romeo Giggly. But again, it's just a really oversized, you can just see how big that shawl collar becomes. So very, again, early 90s. But they all have the same principle. So again, it's a shawl collar. So that's why I chose a lot of these out of all the images you sent me, because they have a theme, which I thought was quite nice to sort of see what you can do with. But what this one is basically is quite a nicely fitted. You can see the sleeve is quite fitted. Then I don't even think the coat on either of those is quite a straight coat, so it's quite a basic style, whatever you want to. I think actually this coat is completely straight, the same as the other one, and then the shaping is just done through the belt. But what makes it special on both of them is that you've got this, so you could either do this double breasted or single breasted, but you've got your normal shawl collar, but then instead of just being like this, really bad drawing. I apologize. Instead of just being your normal shawl collar, it basically is extended, so it becomes like this, and has a seam still at the back. So if we were, I'm going to draw it from the side, which is going to be just even worse. If that's your shoulder seam, that's your arm, that's your front, it rises up like this, and then normally, and it might actually have a little dart there, and then this is your back neck. And normally, of course, with a hood, you curve the back, and you can of course do it with a shawl collar as well. So I think this will look something like this. So it's similar to a really oversized shawl collar or separate hood collar, but when you come to drafting your shawl collar, use the same construction as you always do. You can, because this is quite a loose style, so with your bust dart you could convert part of it into a dart for more shaping, but I think if you're going for a really oversized style, you don't even need to do that. Then a good way of working out how you want it to be, so this for example has quite a low, I'm going to do it in different colors, you can see it. So this is your original thing, bodice. This has got quite a low break point, so if you draw it, and of course it's got quite a big overlap as well, so it looks something like that, your break point. And then if you look at this as well, and on this as well, you can just see, if you draw them with a dotted line, that it's a really big collar. And then what you do is you can actually fold this side of the paper on top of it, and then you flip it, so you guaranteed you have the same measurement there. And that gives you indication of how big you want your collar to be. And when I think with something like that, where you want it really big, normally of course your back neck goes straight out and just tilts. With this, I would actually tilt it a lot more, and then you draw in your hood. And then you can either do it straight here, which gives you, I think this one, this one is actually straight, but it's just a really big hood. And I think what they've actually done even, I think, this is now going to be really complicated. I think this one, can you see, it hasn't got a seam at the end. So I think this one is actually that the whole pattern again extends something like this. It's got some sort of darting. So this is actually quite a complicated pattern, this one, because it's basically massive and it gets folded in, because it sort of seems to drape out. It's like a really 3D hood, while this one is more straightforward. So this one looks more even when curved at the end. So that would give you a hood shape. So like that. So what I would actually do is I would draft the shawl collar like this, and then I would actually choose a hood which fits you, and lay it on, so the back neck folded in half of the hood lays on this line, and then you can trace around it, and that will give you a rough shape of how it fits. And then if you put it on, it's too drapey at the back, you might want to tilt the whole thing forward. But the principle is the same. So it's one of those, the basic version is really easy. This sort of becomes 3D, where you then actually start folding it. I mean, you can see there's a seam line here. So I think the whole thing is, the whole front is out of one piece, and then there's either a whole seam or darts there. So it all folds over and flips under, and it's then stitched out of one piece. And then the back, I think, is probably again really big, and it's drapey, so you can fold it apart. So yeah, so it's one of those where you can make it really easy. The method is really straightforward, but then to recreate a specific style exactly, that's where you then have to make a trial and see how you can achieve that. I'm gonna do the last shawl collar style because I thought that was really easy and it doesn't look like a shawl collar. So the way this works is it looks really simple. It's a halter neck, so you've got a nice shawl collar. Always has a seam, the shawl collar. Center back, and then it's just got a button stand. It's really long, and I think the whole dress, so you got it's quite fitted up here, and then the whole dress, so I think it's got dart here because it looks quite nice and fitted, unless it's been pinned in, because of course it's a photo shoot. But then I think from underneath the dart, I think it just flows out even more like this, and it's got pockets, of course. And it might even be more, might be a proper half circle dress. But the way you pattern cutting, so it's exactly the same. If we draw again our, I think with some of them, I think once you watch the few tutorials, quite often you don't need a full tutorial for this stuff like that, because it sort of hopefully makes sense. So I think if that's the classic style, actually the dart is a bit bigger, isn't it? So all you do is exactly, you draft your little shawl collar, and again you can draw it on here and then flip it to where it needs to look, end up being. So it looks something like this. And I think you can always sort of draft it, but you might have to in your trial check it, because that looks like her shoulder is roughly. And then it's got this, I think it's literally, it's like this. So this is your pattern piece, and then your yes, that's how I would do it. Sorry, I've just suddenly doubted myself. And then the facing is the whole, because back, and then I would just probably, you could even do your facing like this out of one piece, or you could make it out of two seam pieces by putting a seam in somewhere, or of course you can just do your button stand. And if you, because this could be completely straight, depending what line you have. If this is completely straight, you can actually make, instead of having a separate facing, you can make this a fold line. So when it would just your facing, you could literally just make it out of the same piece, like this. So it ends up being your dress is just one piece and it's folded, which folds the facing, and of course the fold line for the collar is there. So basically the bottom part of your collar at the back also creates your halter neck. And what you could do is actually you can put a separate stand in there to make it stronger, so you just create another piece, or I would just fuse it. You can just leave it out of one. And when that bust starts, I would leave half of it in it, and then the other half is transferred in volume at the hem, so your dress looks like this. So I think that'd be a really nice fast dress to make, because it's a really basic shawl collar. You're getting rid of a whole back by making it a halter neck, and then it's just your typical flared A-line dress. And the last one I'm going to look at, and I know this is quite a lot of information, I apologize. Oh, sorry. This is really nice because it looks really complicated, but it isn't. You will have to make a 12 for something like this. It's a 1940s collar, and you might have seen, have you ever seen like a really nice 1940s style where you have something like this? And then it's just like a button stand, like a little dress like that. And then the back can look exactly the same or can be straight. This is quite similar. So again, it's like a shawl collar. It grows out of the front and the back. So we've got our button stand. I think this is probably, oh, you can see how the blouse actually looks like. It's slightly fitted, and then it's got these tags. So it's a nice thing about patterns like that you know how they look like. And then it's got, I think it's just maybe even one pleat at the top. So that's just adding a bit of volume. And then they just made this sort of peasant blouse. But then the collar is like a shawl collar, so it grows out of your front bodice, but then instead of it being one continuous part, they've added a seam, and then you just got two separate ones. So what they basically done is they pinched out. So instead of a collar going round, they've added more volume. So the front will look something like this. So again, normal center front button stand, and then this, I think this might actually be straight, and then this is just pointy like this, and that's your fold line. Because quite often these are really simple, and that's quite simple to make to keep it on the straight of grain. And when your back, rather than extension, your back is a separate piece, so it still goes into your neck, but it's basically a triangle with the same length as this, and then I think it's actually the same shape more or less as well. So I think that to do it, I would lay on my back again really low, and then draw in the same shape. And you basically, from this looks like, from here, these need to be identical, the front piece and the back piece, and then this sort of, the angles look identical as well. So basically this angle and this angle needs to be identical. So what you could even do is that you draw out the front, then you actually lay on your back neck upside down, but rather than going back, you go to the front again. Okay, this is really going to be really long. Sorry, I'm going to quickly actually show you, because I think the best way to do it is like this. So you draw in your shape, whatever triangle it is, however big you want it to be. And you can measure out, because this looks like it hits here, which means that line needs to be same length as that. And then normally we lay on our back like that for a shawl collar tutorial. I think for this one, I would actually trace it on a paper and then lay it like that, and then you twist it until this line hits that line, and that means you then get, this is your triangle piece for the back, and it means it's the sort of same fit, same length, and should hopefully fit. And that's when I will make the trowel. And then if it doesn't fit how you want it to be, then you might have to change the angles a bit. So you might just have to take something out, make it smaller, make it wider, add a bit. But that's the basic principle. So again, it's actually a shawl collar, just with a lot of different techniques in it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this drafting list. It ended up being slightly bigger, longer than I thought it would be. But there are lots of nice drafting ideas for you to try out, so I wanted to cover them all. And on Friday, I'll be back with a full drafting tutorial for this grown-on stand collar. Bye bye!